Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets, where we decode the art and science of building a thriving coaching business. Let's uncover what's in store today with none other than your boy, the road dog, and of course, the legend himself, Karl Bryan. Shoots.
New intro. I like man. You practicing that, man. Good job.
Buddy, I'd say I have a face made for radio, but we know we're talking about you. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I take it back, Shoots. With those chiclets, you're a pretty handsome fella. Let's not get ourselves short.
Sideways nose. Don't pretend like the sideways nose isn't incredibly sexy. Come on.
This is what filters are for, bud. That's how it works. Anyways, what's going on? What's going on in the life of Dr. Karl Bryan, treating all of his patients one at a time? What's going on there, bud?
Not a doctor. Buddy, working hard, man. Got lots of cool stuff going on. Playing with an acquisition that who knows what might happen, but doing lots, man. Keeping busy, just doing what we do, bud. Doing what we do. Got a new master class that I've been working on that frankly is going real good. It's real funny, you do a presentation and like the way you got it, if you're thinking about doing a presentation, the way you got to do it is you got to do the damn presentation and then immediately afterwards iterate, adjust on the fly. Action brings momentum. So anyway, it's kind of cool, but working on that, man. It's going real good. Playing with it. We're good, bud.
So you just tease out acquisition in there, hey? What are you, fucking like Alex Hormozy all of a sudden? Acquisition.com? What's going on here, bud?
Yeah. Actually, it's, you know what? No comment, Shoots. Let's keep going.
Okay. All right, folks, there you have it. Big things happening at focus.com. And if you haven't yet, subscribe today. All right. Boy, I'm getting bad at the shameless plugs. Hey, horrible. Anywho, let's dive right in. The first question I have for you, it's funny because this one pops up every once in a while because I don't know, people just like to hate on colleges, I guess, but because again, young folks, right, like coaches tend to mentor young people, and I guess one of the questions that we typically get is like, oh shoot, how much do you rely on a mentor, or should I go to college? Like, how many times have you been asked that? Should I go to college, Karl? Like when you're mentoring younger people, they're asking you that, I'm sure. How do you respond to that these days?
Shoot, straight out of the gates. Not only opening, but you're hitting me with the hard stuff.
I'm not coming out weak today, boy. So let's go. Let's jump right in.
Okay. Should you go to college? Gosh. Loaded question on steroids. Some love it, some hate it, some agree, some will disagree. But start with, should you go to college? It's the wrong question, in my opinion. Why do you want to go to college, right? Not where, not what should you take, why college? Should I start a company? Well, why do you want to start a company? Should you become a business coach? Well, why do you want to become a business coach? One of the things I've talked about for years and years, like, should I get a coaching certification? How'd I do there, Shoots? The answer, why do you want a coaching certification? Do you know what I mean? Like, that's going to give you the confidence and you feel like it's the right one and there's, reasons behind it. I think you should fill your boots. But if someone were to ask me and you didn't feel like you really needed it, do you need it to become a, kick butt coach? What you need are 10 clients. And, it's like what I said, you got to get started. Let the action lead to the momentum, right? So not everybody needs to go to college to get a degree. Don't fall into the trap of feeling pressure from, I think dependent upon age, but there would be the teachers, there'd be the parents, there'd be the family, there'd be the, people closest to you. Less than 50% of the people that go to college, and again, I don't know those stats accurate, right? I'm kind of pulling that out, but it's accurate-ish. 50% don't graduate, right? So I don't know. I think, right, you got to ask the right question. The right question. Criticism of college is not a criticism of learning and advancing your knowledge. Be very, very clear with that, especially for our young folk. You start with, what do you want? What do you want to learn? Like if you wanted to go into business, like research the best 10 books for the skill that you desire, right? Research the best 10 people in the industry for you to follow. Like you mentioned Hormozy a minute ago. Like again, Hormozy, truthfully, this guy is, he is next level at educating, and his demographic tends to be, I don't know about the young folks, but if you're 25, I think you'd absolutely eat him up. And he provides some unbelievable guidance. So again, find the best people, find, on YouTube, find the channels and the interviews with, what I mean, these same individuals that you're reading the books, and then go to their interviews, and then go to their own podcast, their own YouTube channel, and study. So study the top 10 in the industry, not the influencers on Facebook, right? Please, my heavens, not TikTok, for goodness sakes, right? The 30-second clip, I just don't know that it's going to provide more questions and answers in many, many cases, right? No doubt there's some value to be had in different ways. God bless you, go for it. I remember, look, my dad, let's see my own experience. Look, my dad, I said, Dad, I'm going to college. My dad was a professional gambler, an entrepreneur on steroids. So he's a business and gambling, lots of math. My dad's like almost has a genius IQ, right? He's very, very good at math. I do not share his IQ, unfortunately. But I can tell you that, he just said, look, you're paying for it. First of all, right? Because I think in his head at the time, I didn't take it that way, but he's like, if he pays for it, if I pay for it, I'm going to take it 10 times more seriously. If he paid for it, it'd be more valuable if I did, right? Obvious reasons. One of the things he said, like, don't, wording long time ago, but it's like, what I don't want you to do is don't want you to get to college because you feel like somebody needs to sign a piece of paper on your behalf. Translation, degree, right? The reason he said that I should go to college, and I do remember this very, very well, is he said, go to it to make sure that you know that the people that go to college and the people that graduate aren't any smarter than you. And frankly, that's one of the reasons I grew up in a small town of 5,000 people. One of the reasons he said he had to get me out of that small town. And you can imagine that I had a lot of pushback because I was like, I had my buds and, I was having a great time. And he said, look, I got to get you into the city so that you realize that these people aren't, better or smarter or whatnot than you, right? That was kind of his logic behind it. But yeah, he basically just said, look, once you get out of college what you want out of it, it would be time to leave. And that, in his opinion, was not a signature. But if what I felt like I needed was a degree, as a certificate, as the diploma, well, then keep going. And he did say, make sure you party and you meet lots of girls and that sort of thing, because he said, again, that's part of the experience. And frankly, I think that's why he wanted me to pay for it versus him, because he didn't think paying, for me to go and party was on his bucket list. And by the way, when I did go, possibly not coincidentally, I did 10 times better than I ever did in high school. And why? Because I was studying business, I was studying advertising, I was studying marketing, I was taking accounting classes, and these things were things that I was interested in because I always wanted to be a business owner. Like that was always, I started my first business and I was like 14 years old, washing windows, mowing lawns, like many of us. I had a couple buddies that would work for me, and so anyway, so I had already get going, but at the end of the day, I wanted to become a businessman, and that was, the direction of I knew which direction to put my sail because I knew where I was going, right? And then coincidentally, so I'm going to college, and I ended up starting a marketing company targeting students at the college. So basically, my marketing professor, him and I were pretty close, and we've had some meetings and whatnot. He liked me, I like him. A good guy, and he ran the school newspaper. He said, hey, you should come into the newspaper. My parents had a newspaper growing up, and he said, you should sell some advertising for us. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. One of the things that happened is like everybody answered the phone. When you called from the college, everybody would take the call. So translation, okay, that told me something. So I ended up starting a marketing company, made fistfuls of money, quite frankly. Went to from broke college student trying, with a student loan, et cetera, to, buying beers on the weekend for all my buds. And then I traveled Western Canada doing the same for other colleges. And it was unbelievable learning experience. There is no doubt when I look back and some success that I have had, I look back at those times and say, pretty interesting. And that's not the path that most are going to follow. That's not the kind of advice, frankly, that most dads are going to be giving out. Again, I was very lucky to have a great mentor in my father. But I just think what's important is you're thinking about going to college, or the kid that you're mentoring, or the gal that you're mentoring, or the young individual, the young aspiring successful individual. I just think, then should you start a company? The question is why. Should you go to college? The question is why. Should you get the certification? The question is why. Should you follow through and get the degree? The question is why. Because again, if you want to become a lawyer, the rules are different. If you want to become a doctor, the rules are different. You want to become a dentist, but you want to become an entrepreneur, I don't know that you need the signature. And quite frankly, the right personality type to become uber successful at business is normally the person that just does not need the signature. So little red arrow, you are here is what I'm explaining there, Shoots. Hope that answer helps, but that's my answer, and it's a convoluted one, because they'll say that most of the people that make the $300,000 a year, and let's call that a high wage, they tend to have degrees from prominent universities. So different strokes for different folks, man. That's my answer.
Did you just say 300 grand? Let's call that a high wage. What are you, Justin Trudeau, out of touch with what real wages are? Shoots, what's going on here, bud?
Okay.
All right. By the way, I'm going to leave that one alone. As much as I'd love to go down that path, I love it whenever I hear you say, or anyone say, I just want to be a businessman. This reminds me of Jay-Z, right? I'm not a business. Yeah. I'm a business
man. Yeah.
Love that. Hey, quick aside before I get to the next one. And this might pivot well. Hard to say. You talked about you selling ads for a newspaper. What would you say was one of the, because all I've ever known you as is this guy, right? Guru, legend. What else can I do to stroke your ego?
Shoot, you're looking for brownie boy. Nobody's used to this. Our listeners are going to be wondering what's going wrong here.
All the accolades on the business side, just because he's short and ugly. It's all good. Okay, now that I got back to level playing field here, what would you say was the best job you ever had prior to all of this that sort of gave you some of the best education, if you will?
Oh, buddy, this is easy. Okay, I've told you the story, but this is so. I was traveling around Australia. It's like a backpacker, right? And I got this job. So I walked by. There was, I was running out of money to do. I could have called my old man, and yeah, he would have sent me a little bit of money, but I would have felt like that was failure, right? So I was like, ain't doing that. And I walked by this whiteboard or blackboard, sorry, right? And it had been raining, so you couldn't quite read it. And it said entertainments manager needed. And I was like, interesting. So I go put my backpack away to get my room. I go into the office, and I'm like, so what's the, entertainments manager needed? Like, is that a current thing? It looked like it was a little bit washed off. And they're like, oh yeah, we're looking for somebody. And I'm like, what's that entail? And amongst many things, but taking people horseback riding and up on a boat where we went cliff jumping. And I was a little bit nervous, and I'm jumping off this cliff. I've got absolutely no idea. And I'm looking back, and I'm like, oh, here we go, right? And the guy leading the tour can't exactly be scared to jump off the cliff anyway. So it was pretty crazy. I take people on koala walks, but what I really did, my job, basically in the interview, the guy basically, he says, my job, people book here for 3 days, and your job is to keep them for a week. Okay, and the way you do that, you fill them with beer, you show them a good time. So we do, 3-on-3. We would do soccer tournaments and volleyball, beach volleyball tournaments, and all kinds of cool stuff. My job was to keep everybody entertained, and a big part of that was, let's say at 5 o'clock, when everybody's about to, they're sitting down having a couple beers, about to have dinner. I would have to entertain everybody and do games and that sort of stuff. So I was standing up in front of the crowd, and basically, getting people to put their hand up to, play the game, come up and participate and do all kinds of stuff. And it taught me public speaking. And this is not, for the faint of heart. I mean, this is, this is a hard crowd. I'll give you the red hot tip, right? And And one of the things, so this is an important part of it, I guess, because like you're backpacking, and without knowing Karl, no doubt you probably get an idea. I'm 21 years old, and not surprisingly, my goal is to meet a girl, right? So that's you're backpacking, you're on a bus, and you're going from stop to stop to stop to stop, and you're trying to meet girls, right? Which I was, was I successful? Not really, right? Every once in a while, I'd might get lucky and have somebody was interested in me, but generally speaking, it was not exactly successful, right? But then I got the job as entertainment manager, and I was at the front of the room, and I was controlling the room, and I was giving away free beer and getting people to, to skull beer, and picking who was going to be chosen, and who would go on different teams for beach volleyball, and who would be broken up in the teams for soccer, etc. And all of a sudden, I got to tell you that finding myself a date became ridiculously simple. Right? Like I never experienced before. Okay, translation. When I went into business coaching, I saw a guy do a presentation, and I knew immediately what I needed to do was I had to get to the front of the room, because business coaches were running around and business consultants were running around the city trying to get clients and going to networking functions and delivering their elevator pitches. And I knew with 100% certainty that if I got up in front of that room and I did a heck of a show, and I entertained them, and I told some jokes, and I made them laugh, and I educated them at a high level, and I gave great examples and great step-by-step instruction, that the clients were going to be not only, they were going to be reaching out to me, you know what I mean? And I was going to be able to charge more, have more compliance, have more authority over my clients in a good way. Not that I was looking for yes men and yes women, but they would be more compliant. And so basically, without going into, I could go on, but I was living on an island in Australia called Magnetic Island, and it was bloody fun. And that job right there was a needle mover, where I learned the power of being the person at the front of the room. So there you go.
I'm glad you pivoted into somewhat of a business. I'm like, this is all about meeting girls. It's so good. So folks, if you're a business coach and you're single, live events, this is
yes. I tell you, Glennis Gassman, if she's listening, I told her that, she went through a bit of a rough patch to do. She's been a client for, I believe, over like a long time, probably 10 years, probably listening. And I'll tell you, I said, Glennis, a little bit of an aside, when you start running these events, let me tell you, you are going to have some interest from the opposite sex with 100% certainty. And from our conversations and what you're saying here, I think that's going to be a good thing. So get ready and do it. Next thing you know, she came to Business Coaching Mastery in Cancun on what? And that would be called her honeymoon. So there you go. So shout out to Glennis and Alex. So there you go. True story.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, there you go, bud. There you go. Okay. And by the way, it makes so much sense. Like, if anyone's ever been to Karl's house when he's having a bit of a shindig and having people over, yes, times a million.
I came by entertainment manager, honestly. I had so much fun. Anyway, forget. Let's keep going, shoots. It was fun.
Okay, well, you know what? Actually, not a horrible pivot. I wasn't sure how serious you're going to get, but you laid it low. So let's go to the weekly Zen thought. What's the Zen thought of the week?
Oh, Zen thought. I really got to. The fact that you ask this every week means that I really should have this in my head before I go. I'm going to take one straight from New Masterclass. I believe this is channeling my inner Jim Rohn. I believe he's the one that kind of said it first, but you motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker, right? Business coaches, business owners, people in business, the kid that we just talked about to go to college, like, you motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker. They're like, they don't know what they're doing. The next thing you know, they sign up for tens of thousands of dollars in the next 4 years of their life, to get a degree in something that they're actually not all that interested in, right? Not such a great idea. But really talking about a business owner, again, you get, the business owners, like, they grow from 1 million to 3 million, and they make less money at 3 million than they did at 1. That's not the worst part of the story. The worst part of the story is that at 3 million, they're more vulnerable. They've got more suppliers and more staff, and accounts receivable is growing, and they've got, you know what I mean? Like, they got a rogue staff member leaves and goes into competition with them. Somebody steals their database, something gets hacked. You're more vulnerable at 3 million than you are at 1. And that's not so translation. It's not that you don't want to grow from 1 to 3. you've got to protect your margins on the way from 1 to 3. So in my masterclass, I talk about math and margins over motivation, right? So motivate an idiot, they do stupid things quicker, cautious with that. Again, a business owner's losing money on their clients and then they go sign up a bunch more clients. Not a great idea. Business owner's got an accounts receivable problem and they step on the gas and pour gasoline on all their lead gen. Not a great idea. But you know what, actually also something on my mind, this is Keith Cunningham 101. You want to build a bit. I was talking to a buddy of mine at length and in depth over the weekend. It's something to do with acquisition that I mentioned earlier. Look, you want to build, exiting is an inferior conversation. Exiting is a low level thought. And the higher level thought is build a business you could sell tomorrow, but you don't want to. Right? There's your Zen thought. Build a business you can sell tomorrow, but don't want to. Help your client build a business they could sell tomorrow, but don't want to. Right? I think that has got power. And maybe straight from my email off the top of my head, and I hope I can remember this, but we've got Christmas, timestamp this, but Christmas and the holidays are on our way. There's six things to cherish. And now you're going to ask me what they are. I'm going to ask myself what they are. You got time, it's a beautiful thing, cherish it. I just lost a very, very close mate last week. One of my dear, there was a time in my life where he and I were inseparable. Love, love, love. Shout out to Johnny T. If you're into prayer, if you could say a prayer for Johnny T's family. He's got 2 kids and a beautiful wife that no longer have him. And believe me, this guy, this is a whole, hundreds of people came to his funeral. Just an unbelievable guy. But look, time is one of those things where, you're spending it, but you don't know how much you have left to spend, right? So cherish that. Health, obviously, what do they say? If you've got your health, you have 100 dreams. If you don't have your health, you have 1. Okay, and that goes for the billionaire, the trillionaire, the multimillionaire, the millionaire, etc. The guy in the Lamborghini or the massive house. Cherish it. A quiet mind. This, I think, again, you asked me about the Zen thought. For me, a quiet mind. I run pretty fast, and I tend to take on things that I should or shouldn't, but what I mean? I kind of write checks with my mouth that my backside's got to cash every once in a while. Again, just a optimistic and pure entrepreneur. I believe that a quiet mind is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I think that that's so relevant today because of that stupid thing that you're probably holding in your hand right now. And that would be called that, your iPhone or whatever you got, your smartphone. So a quiet mind. I tell my daughter, I got an 11-year-old daughter, and I tell her all the time, I'm bored. I said, baby, boredom is a beautiful, beautiful thing, because again, she gets bored, and what does she do? She grabs that stinking iPad and she gets stimulated in a bunch of different ways. A quiet mind is a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think that, for young kids, boredom is a beautiful teacher. Real friends, speaking of my buddy Johnny T, real friends, like the last text he sent me has got 2, like literally the last time I was with him, honest to goodness, I laughed so hard I nearly pissed my pants, and I do not exaggerate. Him and he was a lunatic in the absolute most awesome way, like a lunatic. But real friends, the last text message he sent me was like 2 laughing emojis, which is just so fitting. It's crazy. But real friends, and through that, I have found that I've been reaching. I had a face, like on Saturday morning, I had a chat with a buddy of mine that I haven't seen in over a decade, and his health, by the way, is not all that great. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful thing. Shout out to Eddie, Jamie Edwards, love the guy. And it's just, and we haven't seen each other, we haven't spoken in ages, man. And we got on that phone and it was like nothing else. So real friends, cherish them. Travel, travel, it is a beautiful change of location, can be a hack. When you travel, your dreams are bigger. The goals for your business are bigger. That's not by accident. So the entrepreneur that says, I haven't had a holiday in 3 years, that ain't a good idea. I haven't had a day off in 6 months. That is not a good idea. Again, a quiet mind, travel, a good thing. And then the last one, hopefully this is 6. I might have missed one. If I did, apologies. But and then the last one is A house of love, a house of love. That's nothing more beautiful than that. So as the holidays approach, I think a nice Zen-like thought is take a step back and just maybe, list those 5 or 6 things and say, these are things that I'm going to cherish. And actually, and I will write this on my Facebook page, I guarantee, right at Christmas, but the ultimate gift you can get, people that love you, love equals time, right? So the greatest present you can give is your presence. And then if you want to slow down time, because what do people say during the holidays? It goes so fast, it goes so fast, it goes so fast. This week is going to go fast. This month is going to go fast. Christmas is going to be gone before you know it. If you want to slow down time, the best way to do it is to give it your presence. So I often talk about, I go on a walk on the beach, most days. And what I do is I think about the sand underneath my feet. That's a little hack for me, right? And again, you're talking to a guy who struggles mightily with this type of stuff, meditation and that sort of thing. It just does not come naturally to me at all. And by the way, it's like the guy who can't go to the gym will get the most out of the gym. The guy who can't meditate, the gal who can't meditate, if that's you, you'll get more from meditation than the person who can do it naturally. So maybe worth, pushing yourself a little bit in that regard. So being present could be something that doesn't come naturally. You know what I mean? You want to go during the holidays. I encourage you to slow down, give the time, your presence, give your loved ones and close friends your presence. And I think that this could be a wonderful holiday season for you. That's my answer, Shoots. How to do.
Oh my gosh, I'm all zen out.
Was that cheesy?
This guy? Like, who is this guy? I don't even know what happened. It's so funny. Like, I almost want to, like, by the way, like, I feel like, my condolences with regards to your buddy, but there's still a part of me is like, is he going to call his mom now? Like, is this like the last buddy where you're talking about his mom? Remember that? That last time you made some creepy comment about like something about his mom. Like, anyways. Oh, buddy. All right. I don't know what happened to you, but you zened right out. Island life, hey? Like, that's it. It's all going to be mellow until your altercation, which is it's going to happen. I'm going to create some sort of a contest with Hunsey of when the shark's coming. I don't know when, but it's coming. All right.
All right.
Let's keep it on the rails. It's fascinating. Hey, listen. Okay. So you talked about one of the greatest skills you learned was the presence at the front of the room was one of the greatest things that you learned in Australia. What do you think is the most important skill that you can teach your clients that, again, folks, if you're listening, like Karl's like coached and mentored and been part of business coaching for what, more than 2 decades now? So it's that whole, as Tony Robbins said, you'd have to be an idiot to not see the patterns, right? So like, what would you say most clients typically don't have that would be the most important skill that you can teach them?
Yeah. And by the way, you're right, man. I got started in 2004.
Oh, wow.
It's 2 decades, Shoots. It's 2 decades. Kind of, if I can't do this, man, I can't do anything. Okay, so hang on. So I want to make sure, most important skill to teach your clients, small business clients?
Yeah, again, just based off your knowledge of having seen so many of them, you're like, oh man, like this is the one skill that I see more often than not that they just simply don't have. So what is that a business coach can take and go, that's it, that's the one I need to do?
Okay. Okay, well, if you can sell, you can't coach it, and if you can coach, you can't sell. That's an exaggeration, and no doubt some can do both very handily, right? But one's going to come more natural. That would be the consistent. But I would so number one, like sales, right? Like think of when somebody says sales, just think sell to one individual. Get on the phone, get toes to toes, belly to belly, close somebody, right? So there's no doubt if you want to be in the coaching game, like every coaching call is a sale. Right, you can't keep your clients. I got to tell you, so like you really got to look at you're not selling your client on their abilities. You're not selling your client on your abilities. You're not selling your clients on the program and the roadmap's abilities, right? So you got to what do they say? ABC, always be closing. You got to think of that as coaching. You got to believe in them more than they believe in themselves. So marketing would be the next obvious one, and then selling is one-to-one, and then marketing is one-to-many, right? So, so marketing for sure. And then I guess if I were to reverse engineer, okay, so how are you going to get good at marketing and you're a coach? Look, offer creation. Like you've got to be able to raise somebody's eyebrows. Like a new opportunity. If you're going to be marketing, I can tell you this very, I've spent, countless amounts of dollars to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. No doubt I could be in seven figures. Who cares? Just let's assume like my own credit card, not somebody else's, right? A new opportunity will outperform increase, right? So increase your profits by 20% will not outperform a new website, a new podcast, a new business plan, a new CRM funnel, a new list of prospects, a new sales system, a new marketing campaign, a new Facebook ad program, right? So, and before you establish this, you must ask, what do you want, right? You got to establish where they are. And remember, business owners, what they're going to tell you is going to be different from what they want generally. What they really want is freedom, but they don't use that word. They use more clients. They use more money. They use more profit, more time off. They want more holidays. They want a more systematized business, right? Really what they're doing is they're telling you, I need freedom. I need to, that peace of mind I talked about earlier, that quiet mind. So sell that, you know what I mean? So increase, so a new opportunity will outsell improvement all day long. But you know what I'm going to, okay, so I'm going to go, look, they want to be happier, you know what I mean? Like they want to be happy, they want to become happy, they want to be happier, right? And remember, it's not that they want to be happy, it's what they want to be happier than their neighbors. They want to be happier than their brother-in-law. They don't want a bigger house. They want a bigger house than their neighbor. They want a bigger house than their brother-in-law, a bigger house than their friends, right? You want a better car. You want a better car than your friends. You want a better car than your neighbors. You want a better car than the one you have, right? So translation, context is everything. Context is everything. The ability to create that context, by the way, is a great way to learn how to make sales, right? Because remember, they tell you one thing, but they really, again, they tell you they want more revenue. What do they say? They want to make $1 million, right? And again, they don't use these words, but that means gross revenue. But the problem with wanting $1 million and getting $1 million is they could make $1 million in gross revenues and lose money. They can make $1 million in gross revenues and make 60 grand. And translation, that's a very vulnerable business because those profit margins are absolutely brutal, right? And they got to get to $1 million, they would have some staff, they'd have some outlay, they'd have some risk involved, right? So the answer that I'm going to give, the number one skill, I'm worried Road Dog's going to laugh at this, but like, how do I, like the ability to manage their emotions. Like, I think that's the needle mover, right? Like if you're going to want to grow your business and grow it profitably and take on staff and manage staff and build a sales team and manage a sales team and have happy clients and get testimonials from happy clients and get referrals and build the business that you want, the ability to manage those emotions, right? And just keep going, the next step, just keep going. I've said this many a times, but like if I knew, like knowing what I know now, what it takes to build, an 8-figure coaching company, like would I do it again? The question is, I don't know, right? Like my heavens, if I knew the amount of work and the 60-hour weeks and the pressure and the headaches and the dramas and a certain level of chaos being just an automatic with so many people and so many things and managing software, and building out software and solving problems with software. Anyway, so that's just the ability to manage those emotions the whole way. So the beauty is that by ignorance is bliss, is what they say, right? So by not knowing what it would take, it'd be so much easier for me to do it again versus now I know what it takes. And I would go, you know what? I think a 7-figure coaching business with ridiculously high profit margins sounds a little bit sexier. So anyway, so forget that. The needle mover is the ability for yourself to manage emotions and the ability for your clients to manage their emotions. And I would complement that with the ability to influence others positively, right? Like that, like the new offer, the new website, the new sales funnel, the new, the new profitable program. is really your ability to influence others, right? Like, speak to the richest people in the world, right? And Tony Robbins has said exactly this so many times, right? You speak to them, interview them, truthfully, they're not that happy. Jim Carrey said this many a times, and he has a famous quote around it, where he wishes everybody could have $10 million so that he could see it's not the solution that they think it is, right? Money just makes you more of who you are. You know, Robin Williams killed himself, right? Had everything economically. My gosh, he had $10 million plus. He had $10 million in his savings account, would be my guess, right? But they have that, and they live in this complete desperation. Yes, and then look, social media influencers, oh, not good. Living your life by way of likes, comments, shares is just a brutal way, you know. And by the way, what you know, the thing about the internet, it doesn't stop. So you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're checking their likes, they're checking their comments, they're checking their views and shares. And I think that we're seeing that now, right? It's just too damn public of a way to live life. But the privacy is a beautiful thing. Ask a famous person, and I'll tell you, once the toothpaste comes out of the tube, it doesn't go back in, right? So Macaulay Culkin would be the best example that I could give of that. Again, I don't know, you know what I mean? Never spoken to the man, but I'll tell you that I think that he will tell you that fame is something he would prefer to be without. You know, Justin Bieber, I don't know, you tell me. But I just don't know how happy he is with the level of fame, not being able to leave the house. You know, Mike, watch the Michael Jordan, The Last Dance. You know what I mean? The guys have to most of the Michael Jordan stuff is him inside a hotel room smoking a cigar, you know, by himself, right? Because again, he goes outside and he gets freaking mobbed. I had a YouTube channel for a while, and honestly, I stopped for that exact reason. I found myself being consumed by the views and the lack thereof, and you know, anyway. So that's what I would dare say. Just and by the way, maybe I don't have, you know, in order to do that, you know, it's the emotional intelligence, it's the managing of emotions that I think will allow somebody to build a successful influencer type world, right? Where, you know, YouTube, you know, views and whatnot is your barometer of success. So, and I just, the person, it's like the person, the elected official, the person who wants to become a politician, generally speaking, is the person who you don't want to be a politician. It's the person that says, I would never go into politics, that quite frankly would be perfect for politics, right? Well, the person who wants to be the YouTube influencer, wants to be the influencer, generally speaking, doesn't have the emotional management of the person who would be ideal to manage the ups and downs of the likes and shares and views, etc. Anywho, where am I going? Not really sure, but you want to be able to help your clients become successful. Look, self-sabotage, right? What happens? People build successful businesses and then they tear them the hell down, right? And believe me, I have been there. I have built multiple seven-figure companies, and I got to tell you, there was just different times that I can look back and just say, look, I lit this thing on frickin' fire. So emotional intelligence, you know, it's in, I don't know if it's in short supply, but I think that it's not in the people that really need it. And you know, like real leaders, like if you want to be an influencer, what you really want to do, like you're becoming a leader, real leaders create more leaders, not the hanger-on types. Right? So I always say, like, if you're a successful business, or if you're a business coach using social media successfully, I got to tell you that I don't need to sit down with you to know that you're selling more to the lurkers than you are those that are liking, sharing, and commenting on everything you're doing, right? So yeah, emotional intelligence, the ability to manage emotions, I think it's right up there. And that's like expectations. Charlie Munger will say that expectations are opportunities to be disappointed. Expectations are opportunities to become resentful. Expectations are an opportunity for you to be let down, and let down big time, right? So, you know, Mary Kay, she's got a famous saying. I sent this out in an email that I got lots of feedback on. It's like, I might not get this quite right, but Mary Kay says, you know, Mary Kay, you know, the pink Cadillac, to do. Hopefully you know who that is. Very, very successful MLM company. for a while, again, stood the test of time over many a decades. And I think that's somebody who you should possibly be listening to. Maybe not. You should be listening to Mary Kay way more. But anyway, so she says that you have a sign around your neck. No, everybody has a sign around their neck that says, "Make me feel important." So that's the secret to her. Somebody said, "What's the secret to your sales team?" And she said that I told them everybody's got a sign around their neck that says, "Make me feel important." You know, so shoots, that's what I'm going to say. That's my, it's, you know, managing emotions is very, very hard. That's the good news and the bad news. The good news is others don't have it. The bad news is it's hard for you to do it. You do it. And I think you know, you got the makings of somebody to build a 7-8 figure business better than the others. So that's my answer.
There you go. There you go. You want to do one more?
Let's go, Shoots. I'm good if you're good.
Okay. This is a little bit off the cuff. This is a little bit different. Because we you know, you talked about a skill that you might not have. Obviously, as I said before, you've seen a lot of different businesses. And obviously with the economy the way that it is, and things probably tightening up and possibly, you know, the recession, all that sort of stuff. It's a long-winded way for me to say, should I be encouraging my clients to have a bit of an emergency cash fund, like 6 months or whatever? Is that, do you think that's A, our job as a business coach, and B, do you think that's even wise?
Ooh, okay, Beauty, loaded. I think it's a great bloody question. That's what I think. If you asked Dave Ramsey, he would say, I've never, in fact, I have heard him say it. He's going to say hardcore yes. And then if you ask Grant Cardone, he's going to say hardcore no. You know what I mean? So again, it's so little red arrow, you are here. Okay. Translation, risk tolerance is something that I would need to understand about the individual. Remember, they're without meeting the client, their goal is wealth/freedom, right? And the reality of something like this is luck plays a role. And to say anything different is nuts. Like if you look at the most successful companies of our time, and let's call that Walmart and Facebook and Disney and Apple, et cetera, and Amazon, what did they have in common? And it's one thing that they played no part in, and it's called timing, right? If Walmart would have been started right before a pandemic, I got bad news. I don't care how hard Sam Walton was working and how many helicopters he took over top of cities to manage the flow of traffic, et cetera. That was not going to help him. So anyway, so timing, and again, people don't talk about that. Luck plays a part. Let me explain. So my thoughts are like, let's say you got $10,000 burn, okay? Like it costs you $10,000 to live. So you say 6-month cash reserves, and I'm pretty sure that's what Dave Ramsey says. And by the way, Dave Ramsey, very smart guy. But I got to tell you, if you listen to Dave Ramsey and you go, he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, or you hear others saying, Dave Ramsey doesn't know what he's talking about. Dave Ramsey's talking to staff members making $65,000 a year. That's where his advice comes from. He does not talk to entrepreneurs, right? So again, that's very, understanding. He understands his avatar. He understands his clients, right? Okay, so let's use 60 grand if that's okay, right? As our cash reserve over 6 months, and it might be 30 and it might be 60, whatever, 10 grand a month. Well, that 60 grand, if you left in a bank account, the way that Dave Ramsey advises, it's basically like losing money, right? Or what assuming, inflation. So that means that your cash is losing value. And Robert Kiyosaki screams that from the mountaintops. Is he right? Well, if you took that let's just say you got to put 10% down to buy a house locally where you're at. Okay, well, what would that get you? What is that going to get you? A $600,000 house, it sounds like, right? You put 20% down, and I guess you got a $300,000 house, and that will vary wildly before you say that I'm wrong there. Like, veterans often get zero, can buy houses for 0% down in different places, and then a new home buyer can pay like 3%, right? So it varies a little bit, or 0% down and 3% down. So let's just assume 60 grand though is our number. You want to follow the 1% rule. Okay, the 1% rule is this: that if you buy a $300,000 house, you rent it for 3 grand, and that means that if you have a $600,000 house, you'd want to rent it for 6 grand to be able to follow the 1% rule. The bad news is that, you know, $1 million house is not going to rent for 10 grand, and by the way, the $6,000 house is probably not going to rent for 6 grand either, right? So how would you get 10 grand out of $1 million house? Somebody's listening and go, oh, well, Airbnb it. Right? Okay, well, you could do that. And sure, you'd probably net 10 grand a month, and God bless you, that'd be awesome. But if you're going to Airbnb your house, you just start, that is a business, right? What does a business take? A business must be managed. It takes time, it takes resource, it takes focus, right? So as houses get more expensive, the good news is you then increase the capital gains. So you're going to lose the 1% rule, might not factor. But if you make 10% on $1 million house, you just made 100 grand in capital gains. Translation, a good thing. If you look at people that have made gobs and gobs and gobs of money in real estate, to be clear, okay, and Robert Kiyosaki won't tell you this, but the real money comes from capital gains, as in, you know what I mean? Like, it comes from capital gains. That's the $300,000 house being worth 600 grand in 10 years, and the $600,000 house being worth 1.2 million in 10 years. And ideally, you got the rule of 7 working in your favor, where you get a 10% return, and that means you double your money every 7.2 years, right? But again, not everybody's in a position to be able to go and, you know, buy $1 million house. So you've got to start where you're at. So the 1% rule for the average would be where you want to be thinking. But what I'm trying to say is, like, taking $60,000 and leaving it in a bank account, should you do that? And timing is the question, because if you live through a boom and your 60 grand sits in the bank account, it's you know what I mean? It's depreciated big time because inflation's up. That means the cost of the houses are up, and you've lost a big opportunity, right? So it's luck. And the other thing is, if you're going to buy a house, well, here, again, a little bit off topic, but the way that you manage to, like, what I'd want to do is, I want to buy a house where I can add a bathroom and I can add a room. Okay, what happens? I've now increased the value of the house. I could go back to the bank, I could refinance it, I could get my money out and potentially take that $60,000 and do what? And buy another one, right? So what that takes, and what I just said, if you're going to buy a golf course, you need a plan. If you're going to build a house, you need a plan. If you don't have a plan, the golf course is going to be a dog's breakfast. The house is going to be a dog's breakfast. If you don't have a plan to do what I'm describing, it's going to go haywire. So make sure that you're a little bit cautious with that, because there are nuances to what I'm describing that we'd be on here for a long time in order to fill them all in. So you're, you know what I mean? Look, speak to the pros in your area. Like, speak to people that have done it, right? Like, again, and ask me, am I investing $300,000 and following the 1% rule? And the answer is no. So I'm not the person to ask for that plan. There are people in your area, I would imagine, or people close to you that have done it. Don't go to Facebook and go to the influencer. Go to somebody who's got 10, 25, 50, 100 of these things, right? Ask them some questions. They won't get on the phone with you. Offer to pay them for their time, right? But translation, make a plan, make a plan. What am I trying to say? Taking that 60 grand, and should you just plunk it into your bank account? I think that's a good idea. I think that'll make some people, you know, show me your risk tolerance, show me your ability to sell. If you run into a cash flow problem, a good salesperson can go and solve it by picking up the phone and making things happen. Well, that person I would encourage to be a little bit more, you know, proactive in that regard, versus somebody who can't pick up the phone and sell something. Somebody who had a job, as an example, I'd be encouraging them to, you know, be a little more cautious, because they don't have the ability to sell their way out of trouble. And remember, speaking of a plan, in order to get ahead in real estate, you gotta own 2 houses, which is very relevant for this conversation, right? So what most people do is they buy a house, and then they have another kid, or they decide they want a better house and they start making more money. And what do? They sell the one house and buy a second and upgrade. Well, you're not going to get anywhere if you only own one house. You've got to own 2, right? Do you not? Like that, as part of your game plan, if you think that, investing in real estate, if you own a house and it appreciated from 300 grand to 600 grand, and you now think that you have $300,000 of capital gains, which you do of equity, the problem is that I assume you have to live in a house. Do you know what I mean? So if you're going to just sell it and rent, well, little red arrow, you are here. What stage of your life are at? Maybe that's what you're going to do, and you guys are going to retire. The kids are out. You're empty nesters. Okay, then that plan works. But if you're 35, you're 45, I don't know if that's the best plan. The bottom line, so what you do is you go to the bank. If the house appreciated from 300 to 600, you go to the bank, and instead of selling it, you go draw against the $300,000. You get a good percentage of it, 60 to 80, but let's just say you get 60% of it, and now you use that money to put down on the next house. Nuances to all of this stuff. Again, speak to people smarter than I, speak to your accountant, speak to people that have done it, but that's the way that you know what I mean? If the goal is, because 60 grand, look, we're looking for, what are people looking for? They're looking for wealth, they're looking for freedom, or that's what entrepreneurs are looking for. You know what I mean? Well, creating, economic environment that's favorable. I think that's these are the types of things that I, as a business coach, is this relevant for a business coach? Is this helping the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker? Well, I think it is, because the reason that they hire you is that they want to become wealthy. They want freedom, right? So understanding these things as they start thinking about buying a bigger house, it's like, well, wait. Before you go and sell that house to buy a bigger one, here's what somebody on a podcast said that I agree with. What do you think? And let them digest. And before they make the decision, I would talk to them about their risk tolerance. So back to the example, if real estate booms, the $60,000 sits in the bank account and depreciates, versus if you were able to buy hypothetically a $600,000 house that becomes worth $800,000, because the best time to buy real estate is during a boom. Well, that 60 grand could have turned into $200,000 of capital gains, right? So I don't know. And there's risk in all of this. The way to get around it, it's timing and a little bit of luck. And anybody says that what I'm describing right now does not take a little bit of luck, would be kidding themselves, because they don't know what the economy is going to do. They don't know what real estate prices are going to do. They don't know what the stock market's going to do. They definitely don't know what the crypto market's going to do, right? Everybody's now go all in on crypto, and be cautious. And I'm a fan of crypto, right? I'm putting in dough myself, but my gosh, I'm expecting a roller coaster of a ride. Not a one-way. I said you could podcast on this podcast, Road Dog. We talked about Bitcoin getting to $100,000 a lot. Anyway, so there you go, Shoots. And I might so the other thing that the problem is, what I'm describing, okay, is what the entrepreneur does not do with the 60 grand. Okay, what do they do with the 60 grand? They go buy a $100,000 car, and that's the rub, and that's the mistake. And maybe the $60,000 car, the $100,000 car makes them feel warm and fuzzy, and that makes them a better business. It makes them a better businessman. It makes them stronger. It brings in some clients. Don't know. Those things have happened, but I think really when you understand buying a $100,000 car, it's not just the price of the car. It's the premium gas. They've got two sets of tires. They get a different size of tires on the front and a different set of tires on the back, right? They've got rims. They got low profile tires, more expensive. You're going to go through more of them. When you take it in to get repaired, it costs you more money. You got to get insurance. It's more expensive. Heaven forbid they've got interest payments on it, right? Well, $100,000 car, the interest payments on a $100,000 car versus a $25,000 car are two different stratospheres, right? And not to mention, you buy a $100,000 car, and let's assume this is like look, they want to drive it, right? Same when you buy. The problem with the boat is that you want to take all your friends out. Well, that's not so bad until all of a sudden it takes your focus away from the main thing. You got to keep the main thing the main thing. Michael Jordan was Michael Jordan because he made the main thing the main thing. He's a billionaire through Nike because of his basketball skills, not his abilities to design shoes, right? The big screen TV, you want to start to watch it. So anywho, shoots, in closing, that was maybe a little long-winded, but Elon Musk uses his money to invest in businesses. Place that 60 grand into your business is kind of where I was planning on. I was trying to direct this. It took me a while, but like, you know, if you own your own business, hire a staff member. You could double and redouble your money in a very real and, you know, real and meaningful way. If you don't, you know what I mean? If your client doesn't have staff members, they're not investing in their own company, you know, that's a bit of a mistake. So anyway, Shoots, that's my answer. How did I do?
Well, okay, so I know we got to wrap, but I want to just quickly get to this. Now you made it very clear. Absolutely nobody knows what's coming next. Hey, but Karl, hey, what are your thoughts around the recession coming? I'll totally set you up for that one. Nobody can predict it, but maybe Karl can, folks. Here we go. If the recession does come, what are your thoughts around a recession coming? How about that? I'll soften the blow for you because nobody knows if it's actually coming, but I'd love to get your thoughts around it just to close this loop.
Yeah, my answer is that, okay, so Donald Trump was just elected, and what everybody is saying is that the economy's going to boom, the economy's going to boom, the economy's going to boom, right? Go all in on crypto, go all in on your investments. Well, what did everybody say during COVID, right? It's going to crash, it's going to crash, it's going to crash. It's going to, you know what I mean? And I thought the same thing, right? What did it not do? It did the opposite, right? So my worry is that everybody is now singing the same. Remember the New England Patriots? They were, you know, going to go undefeated and ended up losing in the Super Bowl. And everybody was like, they can't lose to the Giants. They can't lose to the Giants. They can't lose to the Giants. You know what my old man said to me? They're losing to the Giants. So when it looks this obvious, things go sideways. And guess what? They lost to the Giants. So I'm going to make it short, and that is that I think a recession is coming? Do I think really good economic times are ahead? I do. I think there's a lot of really good things happening, and I think that we should be optimistic. And remember, optimism can add 25 points to your IQ. So you should grab them. I should grab them. Road Dog, you should grab them. Everybody should, right? But what I'm going to say is that, you know what nobody saw coming? Pearl Harbor. You know what nobody saw coming? 9/11. You know what nobody saw coming? COVID. What did nobody see coming? The Lehman Brothers falling over and not finding a buyer, right? So, you know, the dot-com crash, nobody saw it coming. So I'm just going to say that I don't know. The influencer on Facebook doesn't know. Warren Buffett will scream from the mountaintops that he doesn't know. Donald Trump, I don't believe, is pretending that he knows, but he does, you know, he's saying that he's going to do all these wonderful things and he thinks that they're going to have, you know, wonderful, you know, upside. But when the punch in the mouth for the economy, what is consistent over the last 100 years is you don't see it coming. It scares me that everybody is talking about, you know, I was on with you know, some guys on Friday, shout out some, you know, venture capital guy, or sorry, private equity guys, and they do some impressive stuff. And they were just talking about, you know, the valuations are going to go through the roof. And I said to them what I just said to you, like, yeah, I get that. And I think so too, but I'm also going to be a little bit, I'm personally cash heavy right now. And by the way, Warren Buffett is the same. Right, to be clear, which kind of applies in the face of what I just said, but it doesn't, because it's a little red arrow. You are here, right? Like an entrepreneur wants to make it, an investor wants to keep it, right? Like an amateur thinks of what could go right, and a professional thinks of what could go wrong. It's, you know, the ultimate strategy. No, the ultimate competitive advantage is not a strategy or a tactic. It's a higher level of thinking. My thoughts are that I got no stinking idea and not pretending that I know, but I do want to throw a little bit of caution to the wind that I feel like it's a little bit like the Patriots. You know what I mean? Where they can't lose, they can't lose, they can't lose. Uh-oh, something's going to come that Trump, it's not going to be Elon Musk's fault. It's not going to be Trump's fault. It's going to be just something that we didn't see coming. Translation, timing matters, and I don't know. I would be in little red arrow. That's something to throw into your basket of little red arrow. You are here. I don't have the answers, but measure where you're at. Coaching is this coaching, two rules of investing. Don't lose money. See rule number 1. 2 rules of business. Now, rule number 1, get clients. Rule number 2, keep clients. 2 rules of coaching, measure 2 things. 1, where are you? Rule number 2, measure where you want to get to, or define where you're trying to get to, your destination. Just think of your GPS. Little red arrow, your GPS doesn't work, but can't establish where you're at, right? So those are the 2, the framework of coaching right there. So little red arrow, you are here, and timing matters. Timing matters. You buy real estate during a boom, you look like a genius. You buy Bitcoin during a boom, you look like a genius. You get early on real estate in New York, you look like a genius. So problem is, you could look the exact opposite if you guess right. If luck and timing work against you, and you don't have control over those factors. So just make intelligent decisions. I think the answer to our $60,000 answer that I gave earlier, I think there's somewhere in the middle, right? 6 months, that might be a little bit overkill. Let's go 3 months, and then let's put the 3 months, the 30 grand in harm's way, in an intelligent way with a plan. I don't know, Shoots, there's my answer. What do you think?
Like it. Do you want to close us out with the one thing?
The one thing. I think I just gave it, Shoots. Just, the little red arrow, you are here. Establish what you want. Do the exact same thing with your client. Little red arrow, you are here. What do they want? But remember what they want. They're going to give you all different frameworks, but where it ends, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is freedom for them. But they define freedom differently than I do. You define freedom different than I do. And you know what I mean? So everybody defines it slightly different. Like I grew up with a professional gambler. You know what I mean? The reality is that my level of risk tolerance as a newborn was significantly higher than the average bear. You know what I mean? I can just, you know what I mean? It's just, it comes naturally. You know what I mean? That aversion to risk, it just comes more naturally than it does to others. And remember, the number 1 skill that you can teach me, and I could teach you, and you can teach your clients, is emotional regulation, helping them manage their psychology. Anyway, so that's my answer, Shoots. There you go, bud. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm saying.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for tuning in another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with none other than, wow, that's real easy to say, the King of the Caribbean, the King of the Sharks, the Shark King. Ooh, I like where this is going. King Karl. If you're not on the inside, if you're not getting access to the pre-show, you aren't getting Karl's daily emails, you just want to learn more about profit acceleration software and how to grow and scale your business coaching practice, visit focused.com and subscribe today. And again, if you enjoyed the podcast, please like, share, do all the things, as again, we are trying to hit as many people, make as big of an impact as we possibly can. And that is it for another week. We will see you on the next episode. And remember, folks, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.